Hello, welcome to the Why So Sidious podcast, where we travel from a galaxy far, far away into Asgard, Atlantis, and wherever fandom may take us. Here we talk about our favorite properties, whether it's the movies, comics, novels, TV shows, and anything nerd culture. Here with me are Caleb and David. I am Jeremy Darr. Today we're going to be talking about Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon, art by John Cassaday. And we're going to be going over Volume 1, which is the first 12 issues. But before we get into the main topic, let's start with our Weekend Geek. David, what do you have for us today?
Oh, we got some cool stuff. Real quick, I did want to point out, so we're recording on the 18th, and today is the 15-year anniversary of The Dark Knight's release. Do I have that right? 15-year anniversary, I believe.
Happy birthday.
Pretty amazing. Best DC movie by far. I don't know if it'll ever get topped. I don't think it will. And it's actually the 14-year anniversary, so I'm an idiot. But yeah, I wanted to give it a shout out for I know. Everybody knows. Everybody's listened to the podcast.
We don't even have to celebrate this if it's just 14.
Yeah, 14's a joke. Anyway, great movie. Congrats. Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan, love it. I'd love to do a recap podcast on that one day. But anyway, we'll go on to the news here. So we got a couple casting rumors, and I'm not really excited about this one, but it's regarding a pretty important character, Benjamin Grimm, aka The Thing. So the rumors have come out that he will be appearing in She-Hulk, and the actor that will be portraying him is Jason Segel. From How I Met Your Mother, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I Love You Man. He's the big goofy guy from How I Met Your Mother. I can't picture it. I cannot picture him as Benjamin Grimm as The Thing. So, but it seems like it might really be like not just more than a rumor. Do you guys know who Jason Segel is?
Yeah, he's in How I Met Your Mother, and what's the guy with him and Paul Rudd where they're just
I Love You Man.
Yeah. Jason Segel is good.
He is. I don't know about a Benjamin Grimm character. Benjamin Grimm's got a thick Brooklyn accent, and he's typically kind of a meathead.
Good point.
Right, yeah.
But his meatheadedness is one of my least favorite things in the comics. It's like hard to read at points.
Yeah, his dialogue is pretty obnoxious.
Yeah, and if Mark Ruffalo can be the Hulk, then I mean, he could do The Thing.
That's true. That's fair. Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Marvel does pretty well with their casting. It just I saw that and was like,
it's weird,
a little weird,
and
but
him and John Krasinski could throw it back and forth pretty good. So it would be a funny movie to see them together.
Yeah. So about that, there's another rumor out regarding the Fantastic Four, and it appears that JD might have been onto something, and I'm not happy about it. JD said that he kind of had a bad feeling that the John Krasinski appearance was kind of a one-time deal. And rumors have came out that the casting, there's no official signing for any cast members for the Fantastic Four yet. And they're looking in the age groups of mid-20s to early 30s. So that does not bode well for John Krasinski, which is a huge bummer, in my opinion.
Big bummer.
So... But then now, we have the rumors of The Thing. So there is kind of but I guess it's not confirmed. But if that's true, we're not getting John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and I am very sad.
But that Jason's in his 40s.
Yeah, right. So that doesn't make sense either. So that's a good point. That wouldn't add up. So one of those two reports is not accurate. So I'm hoping it's the 20 to 30s, and I'm hoping we still get John Krasinski.
Yeah, it's not a push to have John Krasinski play a 30-year-old role, through means of Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, he's a pretty good-looking guy. He looks pretty young. You take the facial hair off of him, and he's going to drop in age.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to do like a de-aging CGI or anything.
Yeah, maybe a tiny touch-up, but it wouldn't need much. There's another casting rumor, which I'm much more excited about, but it's much less specific. 2 names rumored to be in talks for lead roles. Actually, sorry, one's for Star Wars. Millie Bobby Brown is rumored to be in talks for a lead role in an upcoming Star Wars movie. Obviously, I have no idea who that would be, but she's a good actress. But the other one is Giancarlo Esposito is rumored to be in talks with Marvel Studios about an unnamed role. This is Gus from Breaking Bad. This is Moff Gideon?
Gideon.
No. Moff Gideon
Yeah.
from Mandalorian, and Stan Edgar from The Boys. He's a great actor, and we'll talk about him later because we're going to do some fan casting for the X-Men a little bit later. So, maybe we'll get into that a bit. But he is rumored to be in talk with Marvel Studios. So I like him. I hope they kind of give him a different spin because he's kind of played the same kind of role, kind of tone, same kind of attitude in all of his roles. He's the bad guy, but he kind of comes off as, kind at first, but he's really smart and evil. And I don't know. He kind of comes off similar in a lot of his roles. So I hope they give him something different so we can see his acting range.
I hope you didn't just fan cast him for the X-Men because I might have had him on my list too.
Well, all three of us might have him then. So we'll see what happens there. But if that's the case, then maybe he should be whatever we fan cast him as because it's group consensus. The Why So Sidious pod said it. So make it happen.
And I wanted to talk about him on Doctor Doom last time we did a little fan casting because he would work in that role too.
He totally would. I like that more than what I have him cast as. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last bit of news, The Boys has a spinoff series coming up. I'm not excited about it, but it's The Boys, so we'll give it a shot. It's called Generation V, and it follows 4 or 5 college students, and it's basically their college life on campus. But obviously, I don't know, either they're going to be in experimentations with Compound V or they've already gotten it in their superhero high school or superhero college. I don't know. But Boys spinoff, they've already started recording. They have all the cast and everything like that. And it's called Generation V. So I don't know when it comes out. I'm not too excited about it. But if it keeps the same kind of tone and style as the Boys series, then it has potential.
It's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, give it a try at least. And hopefully it's not like a, cringy.
Hopefully Homelander's in there. He makes the show. I don't think he will.
Homelander just lands, blows some guy's head off, flies off.
Yeah. At the most, that probably is what he would do.
Right.
That's what he does in the Boys Diabolical. There's there's one episode where the whole episode goes through. It's all these characters, and then at the end, Homelander shows up and just kills everyone, and the episode's over.
All right, I'll tune in for that one.
Yeah. That's the Rick
classic.
and Morty style one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. And then the last thing I got, it's not very exciting. There's a new Disney documentary coming out on July 27th. It could be good. It's called Light and Magic. So it actually goes into the visual effects really cool. used by Lucasfilms and how they're created and utilized. So yeah, it actually could be very interesting, depending how they do it. But the behind the scenes of The Mandalorian and stuff is always pretty interesting when they drop it. I forgot what that was called. Gallery or something like that on Disney Plus. But yeah, so it's called Light and Magic, July 27th. And it'll be cool, I guess, just to see the original trilogy. I think they're going to show how they did a lot of that stuff. And that took a lot more creativity than anything that's made in today's age. Like the lightsaber effect was created by microphone feedback and something else. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that stuff is always super interesting. And sometimes it actually just takes me out of the movie if I watch it and I'm like, wow, that's how they did it. No, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that aspect where it kind of cuts away that curtain kind of thing, Yeah.
No, but yeah, that's easy to disregard and enjoy the movie anyway. So it could be interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I had this week for the. Oh, sorry, no, we did have one more. We've got a casting confirmation for Loki season 2 for the villain. It's actor named Rafael Casal. Does that ring any bells for you guys?
An unknown villain?
Yeah, no. He is rumored to be Zaniac.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not familiar with Zaniac in the comics at all. Yeah, JD, do you got some backstory for us for Zaniac?
No, I have nothing on Zaniac.
All right.
A little Brainiac, but
yeah, that I know that's what got me confused for a second. I was like, wait, that sounds familiar, but yeah, he's not in anything. I mean, I'm looking at his IMDb and I literally none of the names ring a bell at all. I think it's a lot of small project stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't really know anything about that. And yeah, that'll wrap it up for this week's.
All right, so that wraps it up for today's episode of Week in Geek. So let's get into the main topic. We have a new writer on X-Men. It's Joss Whedon. I think the series before this was the longer Grant Morrison run, which had a lot of big things happening. There might have been some stuff in between. I'm not sure. There's so many X-Men titles. But for the main cast of X-Men, Joss Whedon takes the reins. And overall, I think it's well received by the audience. I've read it a couple times. I really enjoy it. So we start with Volume 1, kind of reintroduces our current role of the X-Men team. No Professor X, no Nightcrawler, and there's a couple others. But the return of Kitty Pryde, which she was a standout in this series, which I didn't expect. She just kind of seemed like a side character for a while, but I mean, she's not. And it's pretty much just reintroducing her, coming back into the mansion, a couple interactions with some of the characters, Emma Frost giving a speech, tricking the students with kind of some Mysterio visuals that make everyone think that Sentinels are attacking the whole thing. So she reads the emotions of all the students to decide who was scared, who was excited, who was going to fight this thing, who was going to run, which was, I mean, like, not the whole team agreed with that because it seemed kind of...
Yeah, those were my
I kind of like it, though. I like it.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. And when you're reading it, you didn't know it was a trick at all. You thought Sentinels were actually attacking, and you're like, oh. And then, right, turns out it was just a test.
Yeah, Scott wasn't very happy with that.
Right. And by the end of the volume, a Dr. Rao is giving a speech, and she announces that she found a cure for mutations. So a cure to change mutants back to normal people. So how did Volume 1 bring you guys in? Did you like it? Were you hooked?
Yeah, I mean, this thing reads just like a movie script, and it makes sense because Joss Whedon wrote it, and, you know, he does TV and movies. But it just totally... We talked about it before when you first introduced me to this comic, 3 years ago or something. You kind of, that was your explanation. You're like, check it out, man. It feels like you're watching a movie. And man, you were right. It really does. The way Joss Whedon writes it all, you can picture it on screen like perfectly. The dialogue and everything, like, it just reads like a movie. So a super entertaining way to bring you in. And I like how they picked up. Now, I didn't read before this, so a couple of the references, I had no idea what they're talking about, but it wasn't enough to take me out of it. I kind of, you know, piqued my curiosity a little bit, but it was really cool. It felt like they just picked up off of a previous story and were just running with it instead of, you know, a typical introduction of everybody at the start of the story run kind of thing. So I liked that. It was really smooth, would be the best word I could think of for the first one. Very smooth.
Yeah. Comics do a good job. Like, you don't have to start in the 80s and read the whole story to understand the stories. If it's an issue number 1, it's going to be like a 6 or 12 issue story, and you're going to be able to feel a beginning and an end. It benefits you to know the backstory a little bit. You're just going to have more of an attachment to what happens, but they do a good job of doing their own little stories while including the history.
Totally.
Caleb,
I'm going to ask... Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say real quick, I'm going to ask you about a few things as we go. Just a couple plot points that I didn't, you know, references that I didn't understand that I wanted to ask you about. But
for sure, yeah, you're probably talking about when they say that Magneto turned New York into a pretzel. Do you remember that one?
I'm aware of that one, but I think Caleb
I was going to ask about that.
I looked into that the last time I read this because I was like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah. And then Professor X on Genosha with that Sentinel that attacks, but we'll get into that later. Caleb, what did you think of Volume 1?
Well, first things I have to say, this is the first comic I've ever read. So jumping in.
Let's go.
Yes. So yeah, speaking of the references, there were some things where I was kind of like Googling in the first couple issues, seeing what's what, who's who. Because, you know, sometimes they're saying their real names, they're not saying their hero name. So I'm like, who's Katya? Katya's Kitty. Kitty's Black Cat. You know, she has like 3 different names.
Shadow Cat. Yeah. And that's
Cat.
like her Russian kind of pet name just from Peter, I think. Because her name's Kitty Pryde, but I think Peter's the only one who calls her Katya. It's like a Russian kind of nickname, I think.
But the art is amazing. Just the colors pop off. The action scenes are wonderful. There was a lot of good setup in the first issue, like how, like you're talking about that simulation scenario. Is that kind of a tease to where Danger comes in at the end? Because they were saying, you know, that thing's been acting weird this whole year or whatever. So
yeah,
I feel like that was a little setup.
Yeah, totally.
Because when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that was like really messed up. That was way too far to take things. Beast with the comic relief, that was really funny. He had a bunch like,
oh yeah,
once we get some outfits, we'll be a real team, or whatever.
Yeah.
And just how the X-Men are treated different than the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. They're the outcasts. They don't get all the publicity and the love. They're the, everyone, no one trusts them, like Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
This first issue really, it made me want to keep going, for sure.
Mm-hmm. The X-Men, it's crazy because their whole story is revolved around, from when they started back in whatever, maybe the 70s or whatever, it revolves around the civil rights stuff. Like they're the subjugated people that the world hates. And that's what makes it so interesting. There's a lot of like political thriller feel to these X-Men stories. And you have Magneto and Professor X who want the same thing, but one wants to do it through violence and one wants to do it through peace and support. It's like a super interesting story for this team because Nick Fury even treats him like that too. Like he works with superheroes, doesn't work with mutants necessarily, unless I guess they're on the team, unless they're on the Avengers or something. And you feel that when later they have a discussion.
Yeah, when he shows up, good Lord. I did have a question for you regarding a couple things in issue 1. So at one point, Jean Grey kind of gets mentioned, and Scott's sleeping with Emma Frost, and Wolverine throws a little dig. Oh, I guess this is how you mourn, how you mourn the loss of Jean, huh? Which was pretty funny. But Emma goes, superpowers, a scintillating wit, and the best body money can buy, and I rate below a corpse. What does she mean by the best body money can buy? Is she like enhanced in some way, or is she?
I don't know if her job. I don't know if she had any kind of plastic surgery, but she just she might have. But I didn't read all of Grant Morrison's run, but I think she might just be talking about just in a super conceited way how hot she is.
Okay, it clicked in my head. Maybe she was talking about the fact that she turns into a diamond form, and that's like, best body literally money could buy. She's a full-on diamond, so maybe that just kind of clicked in my head.
For sure.
But I was wondering if there was something like behind that, if she had enhanced cybernetics or something like that, but okay.
So
I guess, yeah.
When Dr. Rao released the info that there's a cure for mutants, like it didn't seem like a huge thing, but it bleeds into the rest of the story and you realize it's super significant, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like it didn't really pay off much, or did it?
Not yet.
I feel like things kind of changed. Like the first half, I feel like it was very important, and then things kind of switched in the last couple issues and they kind of forgot about it, or maybe forgot that they solved that problem.
Yeah, well, so there's like in all comics kind of, there's these macro stories and these micro stories. So at some point, like that's a macro, but later on they decide to have a big danger conflict. And that's your little micro story, even though the macro story is still building in the background.
Okay, so the cure kicks back in volume 3, probably.
I'm a little bit positive. Volume 2, yeah.
Well, and volume 2 is Danger, wasn't it? Because we read volume 1 and 2, didn't we?
Well, volume 1 of the complete collection here was the first 12 issues, which included Danger.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
That's another weird thing, because volume 1 could be like number 1 through 6. But then like a
that's
year
what
later,
I was referring to, yeah.
Yeah, then like a year later, they'll drop a complete collection. So volume 1 of the complete collection is 1 through 12. So it's just like a thicker book, so you have more of a collection in that one book.
Okay, comics are so confusing.
They are. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So in volume 2, I think there starts to be a lot of worry about the cure. Like that one kid is worried because he's sitting down. He's like, are they going to force me to take this mutant cure? Like I enjoy flying.
That scene
doesn't end well.
So I guess volume 2 didn't have much. Is this where the team found out that Beast went to Dr. Rao and asked about the cure, and he said he was just going to study it?
I think that's number 3 too. Oh.
The issue 2 is mainly the fight. So they suit up at the end of issue 1 and get ready to go where that hostage situation is. But then issue 2 kicks off with them actually breaching that hostage situation with Ord, the main villain.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was a cool scene. You got to see the X-Men work as a team, each using their own powers in very unique ways that just helped the overall mission. So you had Kitty Pryde sneaking in with her I guess her matter phasing thing. She could walk through walls, walk through anything. So she sneaks in, takes the hostages out. And once the hostages are gone, they can get violent. So they bust in and do their thing. Really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was another thing that really felt... Oh, sorry. Go for it.
I like the constant beef between Kitty and Emma Frost. She's always, talking about her past and how she doesn't trust her. And in the end, I mean, she was kind of right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't want to get, we'll talk about that later, but.
Kitty makes a comment that she says the first mission I ever joined up in, we flew off, we loaded up in the jet, and you were, I forget, basically Emma was the villain of that thing. She was like torturing, or she had killed some mutants or whatever the case is. So Kitty's first mission, she met Emma Frost as a villain. So she hates her. But yeah, they have another funny interaction where Emma's listing off a bunch of huge issues that the cure caused. Talking about all the kids in her ethics class who keep bringing up these awful issues. And she goes into this serious line of like really serious problems. Kitty just goes, "Oh my God, you teach ethics?" She goes, "Yes, because now's the time to make jokes." She was like, "I mean, that's the more surprising part to me, or that's the more concerning part to me than anything you just said." Yeah. There's just so much good banter in this.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde tells it how it is in a brutally honest way. So teaching an ethics class seems weird. All right, well, that's about it for Volume 2 then, I guess. So we touched on Volume 3 a bunch. Another thing that happened in Volume 3 is Cyclops going to Nick Fury, which kind of like, I love these little things because it shows that the X-Men are involved in this bigger world with all the other characters. So Scott's talking to Nick Fury about this alien Ord, and Nick Fury is pretty much just shutting him down. Like, he doesn't really care. He kind of runs S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. The mutants and the X-Men are their own thing, so he's not planning to get involved at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he says the thing about how he doesn't really trust mutants. Yeah. Like, Scott's like, "Why aren't you, blah, 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 blah." He's like, "Last thing happened or whatever, Magneto destroyed," like you said earlier, Magneto put Manhattan in a pretzel or whatever and absolutely destroyed it. And Scott was like, "Yeah, we were fighting him. We were trying to stop him." He's like, "Really? Because I'm pretty sure he taught at your school." And, Scott's getting pissed. He's like, "Obviously, we didn't know." And he's like, "Oh, and there's another thing where Magneto was undercover at the school." He's like, "Look, we didn't know about these things." And Fury just obviously has no trust in the mutants because of this.
Yeah. And that, I guess, Magneto was disguised as some other character that had like a metal face. And at some point,
I forgot who it was.
So did I, but then he broke out and turned New York into a pretzel. Love, do you have anything else on Volume 3?
The mystery at the end of the issue where they said that they're testing on a dead mutant to get the cure. And at first I thought they were talking about Jean Grey, but it turns out it was Colossus, right?
Yeah, they implied that, remember? Because Colossus, Cyclops had a reaction, and Emma Frost was like, "Oh, really?" So she said something smart, like as if it's his ex, love interest.
But it wasn't her.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, so that's where Volume 4 leads. They just go find it out. And then you have the reveal of Colossus, which I have no idea what happened to him in the series before this.
That was one of my questions.
Yep. But apparently he died and he was lost for a while. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, actually, Ord said something to him. So it showed a flashback of Ord collecting the dead body of him, and he pretty much revived him. But he said to Peter, "Congrats, you were the cure for the legacy disease." I forget what he calls it. But apparently, and they made another mention of it too. Basically, so he sacrificed himself to cure the legacy virus. So they mentioned the legacy virus a couple times. So apparently that's how he died, but I don't know what that refers to really.
Yeah, me neither. I'm sure it's in the Grant Morrison run. I think that was the last big X-Men series. That's where a lot of stuff happened. So yeah, but like I said, they still write it in a way where you could just pick up, like, Colossus has been gone and now he's back.
Yeah, no, it still worked. Yeah.
When he came into the story, after he meets the X-Men and Ord, he has a pretty good entrance. He comes in and just beats the shit out of Ord.
Yeah. Because he was like, "No material, the metal you're made out of is no match for my blade or something. And he's like, I'm not made of metal. I'm made of rage, like all caps. And he's just Hulk smashing him into the ground. It was sick.
Yeah. So, well, that was right before Ord came to the factory there, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, he was at the school, right? So that was his first like big villain thing where you're like, oh, she's going to do some messed up stuff. So he finds, he's just looking for the X-Men, finds the two children, the two students, the one dude that wants to continue to be able to fly, doesn't want to cure Fear's mutation. And in looking for the X-Men, he threatens them, picks up the flying dude. What's his name? Wing is his name. Lifts him up all the way into the air, hundreds of feet above the school, injects him with the mutant cure against his poor will, and then just drops him. And he can't fly, so he hits the ground. Kind of foreshadowing something that happens later, but he does survive. But it's the first time you're like, oh man, this guy's messed up. I wouldn't mind to see him get his ass whooped.
Right. One thing about when Colossus came into it, other than the whole rage slam thing, he had another really cool scene. Yeah, it was right at that same time where Ord hopped in a ship after he got his ass beat, basically, and Nick Fury's talking to all them, and he flees in his ship, and I forgot who says it, but they're like, no, he's not getting away. Wolverine looks at Colossus and goes, "You feeling healed up, or you feeling rested?" He says, "I got 2 words for you," which I think they're the catchphrase that Wolverine always says is "fastball special" or something like that. Whenever he tells Colossus to throw him, so he's like, "I got 2 words for you," and Colossus throws him like 1,000 feet into the air, all the way to the point where Wolverine engages with his claws into the ship, punches through the windshield, puts his fist in through Ord's mouth, and says, "You bite, I'll heal. I pop, you won't land." And he ends up coming. It was just, if we got to see that scene in the movie, that would be so badass.
Right.
Like, I love
Wolverine.
that.
Wolverine had another cool moment, and I think we're mixing volume 4 and 5, but we'll lead right into volume 5 anyway. But another cool little X-Men team up thing is when they all have scramblers on, so Emma Frost can't get into their minds and control them.
Oh yeah.
So Wolverine just busts his claws and cuts through 2 people's ears, just cuts their whole ears off along with the scramblers, at which point Emma can now control them. So they win that little skirmish, and super cool.
Yeah. A lot of cool teamwork and everything like that throughout this.
Yeah. And then, S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of busts in, kind of ends the party. I think we're introduced to Abigail Brand here. I don't know if it's the first time just in X-Men comics or Marvel comics that Abigail Brand was introduced. And she plays a huge role for all the future of Marvel. She's the head of S.W.O.R.D. The head of S.W.O.R.D., which is kind of like a space division of S.H.I.E.L.D. for intergalactic threats. So she plays a very large role.
Yeah, she's in a lot. I didn't realize this was one of her first appearances, but yeah, she's in a lot of the main comic lines that I've read.
Yeah, I don't know if she's introduced, because she introduces herself in a way that characters do when the audience doesn't know them. So it might just have been the X-Men, or because I don't remember the first appearance of her in any Avengers or any other series. So this might have been her introduction to Marvel Comics. Not sure. Cool. You guys, Lub, you got anything else on volume 3, 4, 5?
There was one scene that I liked from issue 4. It was with Beast and Wolverine, because they've been beefing over the serum, and Beast he always wants to be a regular human again. That's always his thing, right?
Yeah.
So he's talking about that, and then Wolverine goes, sometimes I wish I was normal too. And it's like a deep character moment for Wolverine, where even sometimes he wishes he wasn't this super powered monster.
He even said he'd be married if he wasn't.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, Beast has a point. He was talking about how he continues to evolve closer and closer to being an actual beast. And he's really scared that in a year or 2, he's going to be playing with a ball of yarn in the living room in front of the family, kind of thing, like turning into an actual like animal, like a pet, with no intelligence like that.
Yeah, which is a fair concern. Like,
yeah.
He does kind of turn into an animal in the last issue, though, when he's, he does that and he looks over and his eyes are like full red.
Yeah.
He does go
feral.
Full beast.
Yeah. Full on feral.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, it's just a cool, complex situation. It's not a villain; it's a cure, and there's a big kind of philosophy debate on whether or not mutants should be cured or if it should be drawn out for everybody. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't want it. Some people might want it. Like they said, like there's people lining up for the cure. So some people definitely want a cure, and some people don't. So
right.
So yeah, we have in Volume 6, Nick Fury and Abigail Brand are just talking to X-Men. A lot of good dialogue, just of two different schools of thoughts. I wouldn't mind. I was really tuned into that conversation. I wouldn't mind if it lasted longer, because it still feels like they're from different worlds. This is S.H.I.E.L.D. They're the X-Men. So he does still respect them. He just doesn't work with them. It's kind of weird. But we also find out that with Ord, apparently he had a vision, or someone had a vision about his planet being destroyed by an X-Men. So now you finally get the reason for his actions.
Yeah, the time shadows, the end of the world by a mutant.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was weird. So he has like a premonition type of thing?
Yeah, I forgot. I don't know if it was him or someone on his planet that had this vision.
Well, their species as a whole.
Isn't Abigail the one that brings it?
She brings it because Ord tells her about it, so she's trying to protect Earth from a war. But his species as a whole, they have some ability, forgot what they call it, but they can get glimpses of the future. Not the full picture. They can't see how or whatever the case is, but they get glimpses of the future. So I don't think it was Ord specifically. I think it was their species.
Yeah. And then Volume 7 is kind of a filler episode. It's just there's some kind of monster attacking New York, and it's kind of a quick Fantastic Four crossover.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which is cool.
That was
fun.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a lot of significance, but it's just kind of fun for a minute.
There's some funny stuff with the whole thing.
There was like one line.
Yeah. Wolverine.
No. Probably J. Jonah Jameson will be tongue-kissing Spider-Man before the X-Men catch a little public favor.
Kitty's like, why is it you always say things that I can't unhear? And they had the fun thing where all the heroes are attacking the monster, and it goes from each person. They're having like these existential crises in their head about these deep-rooted issues that just, got caused by everything that's going on. And then it flips to Wolverine after 3 or 4 characters like that, and it's just 4 panels of him attacking with no dialogue. And then it finally shows dialogue for once, and it's just him saying, "I really like beer." Just like, what the hell?
The Wolverine thing.
Yeah, Wolverine and his beer, man.
So the one thing that was significant is Wing trying to test his powers, and it appears that he's outside, like jumping off a cliff in a nice forest and all this stuff. So he tests his powers, he jumps, he cannot fly, and this time he actually dies. Instead of when Ord dropped him, he didn't die. It just brought him close, but he's dead now.
Well, when Ord dropped him, Kamiko, his little friend there, she turned on her armor and like caught him, I guess, right before he hit.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, that was brutal. That was a brutal little scene there when he dies.
Yeah. Yep. So he's dead. And then that leads us into Volume 8, which what happens is half of a sentinel that was buried in the forest or something gathers not consciousness, but this thing wakes up. It doesn't have his legs, but he's dragging himself toward the mansion. And with his arms, his hands, his head, there's plenty of deadly weapons on this thing. It's really cool how they play it out in the comics with the art. It just shows kind of like what you picture in a Godzilla movie where you hear a large thud. So Godzilla's walking closer. So they're kind of doing this thing where he's dragging himself through the mud as his hands are impacting the ground to pull him forward, like crawling. Just has this big thud or crash sound. And then he shows up in the mansion after their alarms are going off about some kind of trespasser. And the dragon, what's Kitty Pryde's dragon's name?
Lockheed.
Finally blows a breath of fire into the air, and the light that provides just glows over the face of this giant sentinel. So the whole team is pretty scared. They're on alert, and it's time for a fight.
Yeah.
So what are you guys thinking at this point?
I have a question.
Same. Probably the same one. Go for it.
No, it might be. So there was some like hillbillies in the beginning, and they like shut down all the telepathic mutants. There was like two guys up there, and they like turned something on, and all the telepathic mutants passed out. Like, who were those guys?
That's right.
Yeah, I
don't know who they are. Yeah,
it was like
I was like, who are these two people?
Well, they said they found the Sentinel. They're like, we found this, blah, 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 blah. So they're pulling like a Mark Wahlberg from Transformers, like fixing up this giant robot they found or something. But yeah, I didn't understand how that related to the telepaths all being knocked out. It had to be involved in danger in some way, but the redneck thing was a little confusing.
Yeah, this whole thing was danger. I was going to say maybe it was someone on Ord's team, but yeah, the whole thing starts. Ord is kind of in the background now, and this is where Danger starts to play her little games.
Right. Hey, real quick, has Lockheed always been Kitty Pryde's? Like, I'm assuming it seems like it based on everything they said, but has Lockheed always been Kitty Pryde's kind of deal?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay, because in the New Mutants movie, they have Magic, and she has Lockheed
for sure
in that movie. So I didn't know.
All I know is it's an alien. It's obviously not a mutant or anything, but it's just an alien little dragon.
Interesting. He's cool.
So, as they all kind of fight the Sentinel, and they're not doing a lot, whether it's Wolverine, Kitty Pryde, Colossus, whoever's there, not getting a lot done. And that's when we get the epic scene of Cyclops. He's been knocked down. He's on a hand and some knees. He's getting up, and it shows him taking off his goggles, and his eyes are burning red. And the dialogue just says, "I want this thing off my lawn." Then you flip the page, and the whole entire page is just red. You're like, what's going on? You can see the figures, the people kind of laying there on the field. And the next shot shows the Sentinel dozens of yards away on his back with just hundreds of yards of destruction. Trees are knocked down. The grass is all destroyed away. It's just a huge patch of destruction showing the amount of power that Cyclops can actually unleash. And one cool thing about Cyclops' powers, which a lot of people get it confused because they think that these are laser beams coming out of his eyes. But in reality, what his powers are, his eyes are a gateway into another dimension, like full of this explosive energy. So as soon as he loses that control, that gateway just spills through into our reality with all that power, which is why he can't control it, which is why he needs those super high-tech goggles. I thought that's a super cool way to explain his powers. And it's more complex than simply laser beams.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. Never knew that.
That's so cool.
Comics, man. Right. Insane.
Yeah, and this is a perfect way to show it when he's taking off his goggles and his eyes are just burning, and then it looks like the whole world in front of him just turns into a red.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they threw that into the movies. If they did it right. Yeah. It's the coolest sequence I've ever seen of Cyclops. And if we ever got to see something like that in a movie, oh my gosh. I mean, they did such a good job at conveying the power for a comic, for like reading it and just a drawing. Perfect. They did that perfectly.
For sure. Love, what did you think?
Yeah, that was pretty sick. They felt like they do Cyclops dirty in the movies compared to what I saw in the comics.
Absolutely. 100%. He's a great character, dude. He's the Captain America of the Avengers, dude. He's like the smart guy, makes the right decisions. He's still kind of emotional and gets super angry. If he takes it out on the villain, it's great. But a really good character.
Yeah.
But while this is happening, Kitty takes all the children, the students, to the danger room. But they find Wing on the floor dead. And for the listeners, the danger room is the room they go into, and it provides them with the hallucinatory effects, not like a hallucination, but more like Mysterio's tricks with the drones, making Spider-Man see things. This is where they go to train. So it gives them the image that they're outside, or they're on, some kind of battlegrounds. So it turns out that Wing, when he thought he was outside and he wanted to fly over the cliff into the forest, he was actually in the danger room the whole time. So he jumped and died in the danger room.
Yeah, we get a little glimpse of it in the movies a bit. Their little training room, especially in Last Stand, I think. We even get the Colossus doing the fastball special with Wolverine in Last Stand, where he throws him at the big Sentinel. But yeah, we get a few scenes of the Danger Room, I think, in the movies.
For sure. So, yeah. And then volume 8 and 9 is kind of Danger Room, taking her physical form, taking shape. It's full of her expository dialogue, good dialogue about how she's literally been in control of this room that they've trained in for years. She knows their strategies and their impulses. Not quite sure why she has such a grudge against them. I think later they explain that she felt trapped for years and she just wanted to be alive. But she's pissed. I mean, she's mad. She's talking about how she's gonna kill them all. And she eventually says, I don't want to kill you, I want to beat you to death. Like, it's super personal to her for some reason. Yeah, so here's our new villain for the next few issues. What do you guys think?
Honestly, I was kind of confused. Just as a first-time reader, this is like the third villain that's popped up in these 12 issues, and I was like, is this the... I mean, I figured it out. It's the physical form of the Danger Room, but It was definitely a little confusing at first.
For sure.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I mean, again, this is my second read. I read it a few years ago. And this time around still, yeah, I was kind of like, okay, who is this? Like, what is going on here? And she kind of looked like Ultron's wife.
Predator.
What's Ultron's wife's name? Jocasta, I think, or something like that. The female Ultron bot thing. No, not ringing a bell. There's some character that's like a Ultron type of bot, but she's got like metallic dreadlocks too. I'll have to look it up. But I thought it was really cool though when they do the fight scene with her when she first pops up in her full form, and she starts fighting them, and it shows her break down it's almost like the Captain America Iron Man thing where Iron Man goes, all right, track his fight style, and it records Captain America's fight style, and it gives him the data of how to respond. So we get one page where it shows a freeze frame, and it's each character with Danger reading. And if you pause and look at all of them, it shows literally the exact instance, all their weaknesses, what their projected attack is about to be at that point. Super cool details, though. Like, it showed Colossus' weakness is Shadowcat. She knew Wolverine would attack first, but it showed Wolverine response 0.03 seconds early. Wolverine's weak spot is his face. And then it said something about Beast Claws causing a pressure of up to 1,500 pounds on her, stuff like that. It was just super interesting little details I really liked. And it was just every little, like, her calculation of how to respond to each person's simultaneous attack. It was really cool.
Yeah, like, she knew Wolverine was going to attack first. That's just Wolverine.
Yep.
And then Kitty Pryde, who hasn't been around for a while, she attacked, but then the inner dialogue was like, this aggression is not anticipated, so it throws her off, and the X-Men get a temporary upper hand because she didn't expect Kitty Pryde to show that kind of aggression. That was really cool.
Yeah, she noticed, she was like, they're not practicing to survive, they're surviving, or something like that. And so their aggression levels picked up, and their coordination dropped, but effectiveness increased. Really cool detail.
Yeah, their aggression wasn't like that crazy team stuff under Professor Xavier, because they're under Cyclops now. And then she was like, aggression has increased. Like you said, like, uniform strategy decreased, but effectiveness increased. Super cool.
Yeah. One funny part of that, Kitty's like, forget every way you fight. She's fought you 1,000 times. And Colossus picks up Emma Frost, just hucks her at her and drills her. And Colossus turns and goes, oh, yes, I see. Normally, I wouldn't have done that.
But at the end of the day, go ahead, Caleb.
There was one more funny line. I think it might have been Wolverine. He goes, we should rebuild this place out of Legos. Just a nod to probably how many times their place gets destroyed. It happens in the movies multiple times, too.
Yeah. So that leads us into volume 10, Danger wrecks the X-Men. It's not much of a fight. But then it shows that she's been telepathically communicating with Professor X, which we're all wondering, where the hell is Professor X? Turns out he's on Genosha, where the Grant Morrison run, in the first issue or two, the Sentinel we see eventually just causes a huge genocide. It goes and kills like 16 million mutants on Genosha. So that
makes sense now.
Yeah, so Genosha is just a wasteland. So Professor X, like, her thing is she wants to go kill Professor X. And they're having their little inner dialogue in their mind. Professor X plays a lot of cool tricks on her, getting the upper hand and all this stuff. But during this whole conversation that they're having in their mind, the next page turns, and then all of a sudden you have him in the real world decapitating her, which kind of is a trick. Like, she kind of thought she was in her mind this whole time, but now she's dead. Now she's in reality. It shows how strong Professor X is. This is an artificial intelligence, and he got in her head to that point to where she believed she was kind of safe in her mind communicating with him.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you guys think of Professor X showing up? David, what did you think?
So yeah, I didn't really know the significance to it because I wasn't really familiar with the previous issues, so I didn't know if he was dead, which apparently it seemed like, some of them were like, he swore us to not tell anybody. So a lot of the X-Men were under the impression he was dead, and the other ones were keeping the secret that he was in Genosha or whatever. It was cool though. I liked his little entry where he's like, yeah, you've fought them 1,000 times, but you've never fought me. Kind of a cool little Professor X quote there. But it was cool. That part of it was cool. The fight was a little, anticlimactic for me, but
for sure. Lub, first time reading comics, first time reading an X-Men comic. Did you expect there to be some Professor X, and were you surprised to see him eventually?
I figured he would come back, and I thought they brought him back in a pretty good way right at the end to save the day, and it really showed how powerful he is. Like, he basically showed up and just ruined her day until she got into the Sentinel.
Right. Yep.
And I really liked the dialogue between Danger and Charles. Just how they were in each other's minds. It was very, deep,
Yeah, two supreme intelligences. It's like a writer. I know Joss Whedon isn't like a super intelligent guy, but it's like it takes a good artist to display intelligence. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to be intelligent in that level, but somehow they can write it as if their characters are super intelligent. It's crazy.
Dude, I was totally thinking that same thing. And when because Danger's explaining every aspect to how she became, how she's sentient now, all that stuff. And it was a pretty detailed breakdown. And obviously it's a complex thing to explain. But like you said, maybe it wasn't, but from my mind, it came off incredibly smart and made sense. And it was just like, oh, snap. Okay, that's very complex and works for me. So yeah, like you said, I was like, man, I wonder if it's hard to write it like this. And I wonder how much research or how much, study went into writing the dialogue like that, because like you said, it came off very, very intelligent.
Right. So now that we have the Sentinel rising up, the genocidal Sentinel, it's going to blast them all, like with the super powerful Sentinel blast. But Kitty does another significant thing, touches all the X-Men, so their matter is phasable or something. So that blast doesn't affect them. It shows how Kitty's actually doing a lot of significant stuff. Like, they wouldn't have found Colossus without her. She had to float through dozens of feet of pure steel wall or some kind of wall. So she's doing a lot, and she saved him there. I don't know. They probably all would have died except for maybe Emma and Wolverine if she turned into a crystal and Wolverine heals anyway. And then it reveals that Danger, because she's in control of the Sentinel that attacked the mansion. She's in control of the Sentinel. Apparently she's been blocking that Sentinel's memory of Genosha when it killed 16 million mutants. And Kitty does another little thing, and she goes into the Sentinel and somehow reverses that memory block. So the Sentinel, being a constantly evolving thing, at some point it gains a certain consciousness, and it knows, like, it has a simple understanding of life itself. But that memory, once it is processing that it literally massacred 16 million people, it kind of freaked out. It was processing it more like a human, and out of horror for what it's done, it just fled the scene and left. So that's Kitty Pryde again, coming and saving the day.
Yeah, she was huge in this.
The art on the atomic blast from the Sentinel, that was insane.
Yep.
And then Kitty being a badass, she says, "That's all you got, bub?"
Yeah, she used the bub. I love that.
Yeah.
So when Emma walks off mid-battle, who is she talking to? That sounded like... Did we find out later? Would you find out who she was talking to?
I think it was revealed in the last scene. Yeah, but what's the villain in the X-Men First Class movie? What's his name?
Well, in First Class, his name is it's played by Kevin Bacon. His name is
Yeah.
It's I don't think it's
Sebastian
the same person
Shaw.
though. Yeah, Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw.
Oh, that is Sebastian Shaw in comics too, huh?
Yeah, he looks like a weird, like dressed like an 1800s kind of.
Yeah,
dude.
well, he reminds me. It might be a DC villain then, but he looks super familiar compared to a different villain. I forgot his name, but I was thinking it was him at first.
I wanted it to be Magneto. I thought it was Magneto because in the movies she turns over and works with him, right?
Yeah, she's constantly switching sides.
So when she went over in the dialogue was kind of Magneto-esque. You couldn't tell who it was, so I was really hoping it was him.
They're very similar. Sebastian Shaw and Magneto. Well, First Class shows it too. They have very similar ideologies. I don't know if the comics reflects that as well, but
pretty much he wants mutants to dominate through violence.
Okay.
I missed Magneto in this comic. I wish he was in it.
Yeah, there's actually a big void of Magneto, even in the next 12 issues for Volume 2.
Lame.
But he does come into the story like after that in a big way. He's just absent for a bit. But they still write a good story without one of the absolute best villains.
Totally.
So it's also revealed that Professor X knew that the Danger Room gained consciousness years ago. And again, it's just one of those things that Professor X did something and made a decision on its own that came back to bite him in the ass, and the whole team holds a huge grudge against him. I think that happens in almost every other X-Men run.
Yeah, it happens in the movie too.
Yep. The cool thing, kind of an Age of Ultron, not an Easter egg, but a connection. This is Joss Whedon who wrote Age of Ultron, but when Professor X, the first words he heard the Danger Room call out mentally was, "Where am I?" That was the first thing it said when it gained consciousness, which was one of the very first words Ultron said when he gained consciousness and he was talking to Jarvis. Yeah, and same creator, same writer, and it's an artificial intelligence. Danger and Ultron are almost the same thing. So it was cool. I don't know if that movie was made or this comic was made first, but
I think this comic was like mid 2000s, so this one came out first. I believe this was early 2000, like 2004, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. He, I guess, had that idea. I guarantee you he wrote that into the Age of Ultron script because of this story.
Straight up. That would make sense.
Yeah, but Professor X didn't do anything. He just kept her there for years. Like, he knew it was conscious, and he didn't do anything. So I guess that's why she held such a grudge.
Yeah, because he said, basically, Colossus said it. He's like, so you left her there to experiment on her while she was trapped. You can obviously see that I'm not okay with that, because that's literally what just happened to him for years, or however long he was in that thing. And yeah, in the movie's the same thing. Professor X cuts memories out of Jean Grey's mind in the name of helping her. And then when the people find out about that, I think that's in Dark Phoenix run, they're pissed. They're disgusted with him, basically. And I think it happens in another movie too. But yeah, he always kind of gets caught crossing the line a bit with his telekinetic powers.
Yeah, he feels so smart that he wants to do what's in his mind, which might be right in one narrow perspective, but that's just one man, so you can't always just make a decision on your own.
Right.
Yeah. Love, any thoughts on this? Well, so we also end with it being revealed that Emma's been in bed with the Hellfire Club and Sebastian Shaw. So that's how it ends.
Can we talk about Beast going beast mode?
Oh, yeah.
That was a pretty sick scene where he basically takes Danger one-on-one to save Charles. He has a couple good lines. If I can't outthink a computer, I might as well give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes, when you're surrounded by psychics, sometimes you got to work on your instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just like tears it apart. And I thought for a second he was possessed, because when Charles called like Hank, and he looks over and he's like red-eyed and he goes, mine.
Yeah. Okay. I thought he got like hijacked by Danger for a second there. Yeah, me too. Totally.
Yeah, and that was just him evolving more closer to a beast, It was showing.
I was gonna say, yep. Ties right back to that whole thing. So that was really good. Yeah.
Because he was totally fine after.
Right. Yeah. So that's it for volume 1. Caleb, as your first introduction into comics, overall, how did you feel about it?
Well, for my first comic, overall, I really enjoyed it. The art was amazing. So much color and detail. All the fight scenes were wonderful to look at. I liked the story. A lot of little hints in earlier issues paid off at the end. And I got to learn about a lot of characters. I'm not super familiar with the X-Men, so I got to learn a lot of new things. The comedy was really good, especially Beast. A lot of his, majority of his lines had me laughing. I loved all the references to the Avengers, the Fantastic Four cameo, the Shield with Fury, Sword. But also being my first comic, there were a couple references that I didn't understand, but that's what you get. A couple things didn't age too well, but it's what you get. It was almost 20 years ago. The over-sexualizing some of the characters and the retard line wasn't, something you'd say these days.
Yeah. Well, it is Joss Whedon. Even in the modern day, apparently he's super inappropriate. So even back then.
That kind of makes sense.
He's kind of rapey. Yeah. Allegedly.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Ord. He's kind of a one-dimensional bad guy, but it was all right. The X-Men really just carried the whole comic. It was about them, which was what I liked. It wasn't it wasn't just all about some villain. It was about them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was good enough to where I want to keep reading. I want to know what happens next. So is issues 13 through 25 or whatever by Joss Whedon too, or is it someone else?
Yep, that's Joss Whedon still. He stops after issue 25. Same artist. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So maybe we finish that up.
David, second time reading through this thing, how did it feel?
So I think I liked it more on my first. That doesn't take anything away from this experience, but it's my first time reading that, and that was one of my first comics too. That was when you just got me into the comics. So that was one of the first ones I read, but I forgot a lot of it. So it was really good reading through it again. And again, it's just, I'm a visual kind of, I don't know. I like to imagine the stuff, kind of picture it, be able to picture it happening. And this comic is perfect for that. Like I said at the beginning, the whole way through, you can have a movie playing in your head essentially while you're reading this. None of the dialogue comes off great. There were multiple times where there was like a back and forth or something to end a scene. And I was like, that dialogue was more well written than the majority of the movies, MCU or whatnot, coming out right now. Like, I was like, man, they should use some of this dialogue in the MCU because they're not over quipping. The quips they do are hilarious and land every time. And the serious stuff, they just nail the dialogue. And that's huge for me too. If you got corny dialogue, unbelievable dialogue, really takes me out of it. So it was just really well written. So yeah. And the art was great too. So it was a fun read again.
Yeah. Joss Whedon's good at not being too wordy. Like a lot of them are writing a damn novel in between the images. And everything he writes, everything that's said is important. And it's either funny, important, serious, emotional, like something. Every word has impact.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And then, we got that display of power by Cyclops, which is one of the coolest displays of power in comics.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Well, yeah. So we will do volume 2, maybe, possibly, probably. Otherwise, we'll do some other comics.
In the next downtime.
Yes, in the next downtime. But August is full. We got Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, She-Hulk, a ton of stuff. So, Andor. We'll see how it goes. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for our episode today. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at WhySoCityUsPod, Instagram at WhySoCityUsPod, and we will see you next time.